Dr. Shu, what have you brought in today?
Well, thank you, Menasha, for asking. We actually have our friend, our California desert tortoise. His name is Pablo. I believe he's 28 years old this year. So Pablo came to us from an owner who procured her from the previous tenant of their house. Back in the day, California desert tortoises could be taken from the wild only if they had a license or a permit. Now it is illegal to take any California desert tortoise out of the wild. If you find one, please leave it be. If you see it trying to cross a road, help it get across the road and face in the direction that they were going, but get them out of the road. Or if you see them in the wild, leave them be. This guy, again, is a licensed tortoise, and we know because he did come with a permit. This right here was his previous tag. You can see it's kind of worn down as he's gotten older, but he came from a location called the Tortoise House. So he's coming in today because he's coming out of brumation. Do you know what brumation is, Menasha?
I do not.
So brumation is when they go into torpor state, or essentially their body slows down. They're still able to metabolize, they're still breathing naturally, they're still growing naturally, but they're very slow. This is why tortoises can live so long, because usually from the end of fall up until about springtime, they will go into this brumation. Brumation can happen in their natural habitat where they'll find a small hole and they'll hide for those 6 months at a time. Or if you own a California desert tortoise, many people might keep them in their garage, in a cold closet. This year, this little guy stayed in a shower, in a box, in a cold bathroom. So he feels like it's a natural environment for himself. So he's come out of brumation. We're here today because we want to check him over. Make sure that his nails are okay. Make sure he doesn't have any nasal discharge that could indicate that he might have a little bit of respiratory infection. Brumation pets usually are more prone to diseases because, again, they're metabolizing a little bit slower. And he's coming in for just a general checkup. We want to make sure his weight's okay, make sure his shell's okay, make sure there's no other problems. Yeah? Okay, let's take a look at his little claws here. Sometimes their claws can overgrow or they can be turned a little bit inwards, so they may need to be cut. His actually are okay. In the wild, depending on where they're living, as they're walking onto sand, they can wear down their own nails naturally. Okay, take a look at his tail. So tortoises and turtles are different. Tortoises are your dry land pets. Turtles are usually aquatic, they need water. Tortoises still need water, but they don't need to swim in water. So depending on where your tortoise is at, if you have a backyard tortoise, you of course want to provide water sources for them, but away from any pools because they cannot swim. When he came out of brumation, he was offered a nice warm bath. If he wanted to go into it, we allowed him to do that himself. But the best way to know if they're feeling well is if they're pooping and peeing. So he actually pooped when he was in his bath, so we know he was feeling well. And then of course, we want to make sure that they're eating. So when you have a California desert tortoise, it's very important, again, as we were talking about with exotic husbandry, diet, that's the most important thing when we're dealing with these particular types of animals. We're offering him today red fairy duster, which is a California native. They usually will take this when they're in the wild. What do you think about it? He'll also take a puntia or, prickly leaf cactus. Not today, okay. The other thing that we want to check is we want to check his beak. To check their beak, we want to make sure that we can hold their head still. I know. And check their mouth. Yep, looking good. You do want to be careful. Every tortoise is a little bit different, so they can bite. All right, Pablo, you look pretty good. Let's go ahead and take your x-ray since you're here today, okay? All right, let's go.